Yo, yo, yo. Just wait for some people to get on here. Don't do the live thing often, so getting figured out. We're chilling, talking about cars. That's what we're doing today. We're gonna see if this works. The old Grumman LLV. Hey, how's it going? Just hanging out, talking cars, doing car stuff. For play a little bit of the Goes Hard or Scrapyard game. We're gonna spin the wheel. We got a vehicle, and let's see what engine we're gonna put in her. Just having fun talking cars. How you doing today? Well, the 4.3, that's pretty easy swap considering the Grumman's on an S10 chassis. So, I always thought those would be a little fun little hot rod. You know, when worked at the engine shop, we used to do a lot of the 4-cylinder Iron Dukes for those, like a lot of them. But being there, you know, especially the early ones on an S10 chassis, I mean, anything you can do to an S10, you can do to one of those. Talk about hauling the mail. Your music back on here. All right. Hope you're having a good Saturday. Just kind of hanging out, talking car stuff, playing a little bit of our Goes Hard or Scrapyard game. Spin the vehicle wheel, see what we end up with. C3 Corvette. It's a pretty popular Corvette. I think those are the longest running Corvette chassis. What engine could we end up with in one of those? I think I've landed on that once before. Mazda rotary powered C3 Corvette. I don't know about you, but I think that could make some Corvette people pretty upset. But I think that'd be cool. Those are kind of a neat engine. They definitely can make a lot of noise. We were up in St. Ignace last year, and there was a couple rotary powered cars up there that were insanely loud. Insane. So that could be pretty cool. Keep losing the music here. Let's see. How's it going? Let's see. We're just talking cars, hanging out. Little bench racing. A Model T. That's not a car that hasn't had a bunch of engines swapped into it. Pretty popular hot rod. What could we get for an engine for that? How's it going? Just hanging out? Talking car stuff. Boss 429 Ford. Those are cool. You know, especially the like the John Cossey Boss engines can make a ton of power. So, yeah. Hope you're all doing well. We're just kind of hanging out, having some fun, talking cars. What are you guys working on? I know for us, we're waiting on the weather to get a little nicer, but we'll be starting car show season pretty soon. Fox Body Mustang. She just had our shop manager just picked up one of these project car. It was somebody was making a drag and drive car out of it, and he's got a 6 liter LS that he's gonna throw in it and spray some nitrous at it. So that ought to be a fun little car. You know, it's got some nice chassis work done, some cage work, so a lot of the tough, time-consuming stuff's there. What are we gonna put in this Mustang? $350 small block. Bet you that's been done once or twice. Pretty common swap. All right. Appreciate you joining us. We're just gonna hang out, have some fun. Let's talk cars. We just got this one. The Grumman. Literally just spun that probably 4 minutes ago. Did we get something other than the 4.3 that we just got too? Okay, that's not a 4.3. Imagine a Grumman with a 6.7 diesel in it. We've got our shop truck's got one of those 6.7s, and that's a it'll pull a freight train. That's a good truck. I think we're on advertisements again. Trying to get the music set up here. How's it going? What is everybody working on? We're here talking cars, hanging out. Spinning the wheel, having some fun. Maybe we'll come up with some cool ideas. Let's see. OBS Ford truck. Those are one of my favorites. Actually, that was my first vehicle, was a 95. Actually got a picture of it right here. I think I was 14 at the time. Big old $750 I spent for that one. Bought it when I was 14 and then promptly wrecked it when I was 15. I spent about a year on it and hit a deer driving it home from basketball practice. You know, my dad and I went to pick it up and had just got it detailed, got a new stereo put in it, and they get home the one night. He's like, "Oh, your truck's done. It's at your uncle's place. Let's go pick it up." So like, ah, sweet. And I think I drove it maybe 2 miles. Boom! Smacked a deer. Totaled it. Again, it was a $750 truck, so it didn't take much to total it. Hello from Iowa. Hello. We're here in Michigan. Hopefully you guys got some decent weather out there. What kind of projects are you working on? Let's see. Spin the wheel again. Cold? Yeah. We're in that part of the year where it's 70 tomorrow, but then it's probably 30 degrees the next day. Second gen Ram. Those are a cool truck. My grandpa had one. Yeah, we're still in that time of year. It's, you know, like this today was super, you know, nice and sunny, but it was also 30 degrees. So not much you're doing at that point. But good weather's around the corner. All right. What engine could we put in that second gen Ram? 427 Chevy. Might be a few Mopar guys that would be upset about that. Shorts on Monday, coat today. Yeah, exactly the same here. I'd almost rather have it just be cold. Just don't tease me with that. I've been really excited to get the car out for the summer, and of course, it will get one nice day followed by crap. So, she just sits in the garage. Not for long. We've got a couple car shows coming. The 455 Pontiac in it. That would be cool. I do like the old Pontiacs. I was really, really close to buying I think it was 78 Pontiac wagon that had a 400 in it. Really nice car down in Ohio. I just couldn't quite get there on the price, but I was really intrigued by that car. But pretty happy with what I ended up with. The LTD wagon is going to be a lot of fun. I've got some cool plans for that. But yeah, the Pontiacs are cool. We did a 69 Trans Am restoration probably about 6 years ago. Bugatti Veyron. And that had the Ram Air 3 400 in it. That was a cool car. 4-speed. The guy that owned it had bought it when he was 17. And so he'd had it for decades. What engine for the LTD? So the LTD's got a 351 Windsor in it. Just a stock engine. And it's white. Let's see, I don't know if I might have a picture of it. I'm doing this all on my phone, so it's hard to pull up multiple things at once. Let's see if I can't come up with a picture real quick. So I don't know if I'm going to be doing any engine swap at the moment. I do have access to a big block sitting around that would be pretty awesome in that. It might be hard to see, but this was a video I made of the LTD. I'm like phone to phone to phone here. It's pretty cool. It's a really solid car. First car I've had with red interior. I'm excited. Got a little bit of work to do. 85 Crown Vic. Haha. Those are cool. I've always been a big fan of this what I'll call the square Fords. The Lincolns, the Town Cars, the Mercury Grand Marquis. Oh, no, thank you. And so I've always been a fan of those, and it's just a car that people don't mess with. You don't see a lot of people building those cars. Which, really, they're a great hot rod platform. V8, rear-wheel drive, big engines. You can do a lot with them. Body on frame. Comfortable, I can tell you that much. They are a comfortable car. Got one here. This is actually, no computers, especially. Yeah, I'm a fan of a carburetor, let me tell you. This one here, when we're getting onto the square Fords, people that have been around my channel have seen this one. This was the last one I had, 1980 Lincoln Mark 6. This was a fun car, 2-door. And honestly, basically the same car as the wagon, 351. This had the overdrive automatic versus the 3-speed in the wagon. But I had some fun with this car. I had it for a few years. We took it on trips. Drove to car shows. Ended up selling it to a collector back in November, I think it was. It's a fun car, but it was time we moved on. See, I got a handful of pictures here. This was actually maybe the second year that I had the Lincoln. My boy and I went to a Cars and Coffee. This was my coworker Jake had the C3 Corvette for a while. Another really nice, clean car. Small block, just a fun little car. I think he ended up flipping that one. You see, it was kind of cold at that time. It was kind of like an end of the season car meet. Yeah, thanks. What else do I got here? I got a handful of pictures. Different stuff. Oh, this one's cool. 1973 F100. This was Dad's. He had this one for a while. No, the one we actually recently just got rid of last summer. Did the kid help out? Yeah, he does. He just turned 8. Or no, sorry, just turned 9. Gosh. So yeah, we go to car shows. He helps out in the garage. He's learning. He's excited about it. Daughter is too. She's a little younger, but she does like to go to the shows. Hello, Sean. Yeah, so this here. Nice. So yeah, this was Dad's for a while. This was a cool truck. Had a 429 big block in it. A little hard to see, but had some big old tires in the back. I think those were 18-inch wide. Kind of a pro street. Suicide doors. We had a lot of fun with this truck. It was cool driving in a parade, hanging out, rolling the car shows, but it wasn't a very good road trip vehicle, I can tell you that. It was one of those that it was fun to drive around when you were somewhere, but it wasn't always the most fun to get there. He did end up selling that, or sorry, traded it off. Got a 770 Montego. It's another cool car. I don't have a picture of that one. You'll be seeing that on my channel before too long. Oh, here's a good one. This actually goes back even a little farther. This is the truck that he traded for that F100. It's a 97 3/4 ton diesel. Like I said, this was a really cool guy in Ohio wanted this one. And we ended up driving down there doing a swap. Any car that I had that I've got rid of that I miss? I mean, the Lincoln's probably the most one. I did have a 95 Mustang 5-liter for a while. That was kind of my first quote-unquote cool car. And it was fun. Pretty well stock, but we had that about the time that my wife and I were kind of starting to have a family, so infant carriers and Mustangs don't mix really well. So we ended up getting rid of that. Like I said, I didn't have that for a while, and then got the Lincoln a few years later. Had a couple of trucks. Growing up, I always had trucks, and there was a few of those. I had a 91 F-150. It was a Southern truck, really clean, and I missed that one. That was a cool truck. Two-tone brown. Wasn't the prettiest thing by any means, but had some headers on it. It was fun. Let's see. Oh, this one's cool. This is at M1 Concourse in Pontiac, Michigan. So you can see my Lincoln there, and then down on the end, that was my friend Zach, his Falcon. 85 Suburban 3/4 ton. Supercharged 454. That's cool. Suburbans are cool. It's just so much you can do with a big old Suburban. One of our painters at the shop, he's got it's a newer Suburban, but yeah, I mean, you can basically live in that thing. He takes it out fishing and camping and stuff. But yeah, this was, like I said, I went to a Roadkill Nights event where they have it's a street legal drag racing on Woodward Avenue that Roadkill hosts, sponsored by Dodge. And I'm kind of curious to see kind of where that's going to go now that Roadkill's not really a thing, and most of the Motor Trend stuff is gone. But yeah, so we were pulling in here, and this is kind of where they parked in M1 at the time. And we seen this group of Corvettes parked off in the distance, and they looked like they needed some friends. So we bookended them with a couple old Fords. How did I do with that race? We were just there to spectate. He brought his kids, I brought mine, and we were just kind of hanging out. watching it. That car would probably do a quarter mile in about 10 minutes. Not a fast car. I've taken, we do a drag race event at one of the local airports. It's actually something my grandpa started. And so they do an event, now it's 2 times a year, where you can bring your vehicle, and obviously it's got to be, pass a tech inspection. But they do drag racing on the return road or the airstrip. I had the Mustang out there a couple times. It was fun. It's a taxiway of an airport, so you try to do anything, you're just going to spin the tires. But we had some fun. I never raced to the Lincoln because I don't even think I'd get a speeding ticket racing that one. Oh, here's a cool one. This was the 73. Took that out to Frankenmuth to Autofest and got a cool nighttime picture, all lit up. Kind of hard to see. So the truck had these Ford emblems right here, kind of on the cowl area, and they were actually lights. So when you turned your running lights on, the emblems lit up. And it had all the cab lights and everything. There was actually some blue LEDs underneath the truck that when we got it, the wiring was kind of bad, so they didn't work. But again, ended up getting rid of that one and traded for that Montego, which is a cool car. I've snuck it into my channel a couple times. Maybe some of you have seen it. Let's see. Oh, this one's cool. The Lincoln, and then the 78. That's one that my dad, brother, and we built that back. Gosh, I'm just getting out of high school, I think it was. But we took this to, this is a photo of the show at Tri-City Dragway. It was an old drag strip that was shut down in the 70s. And they've got a group now that's actually working on doing some events at the track, and they've been trying to restore things. You can see the old tower back in the day. They cleared out all this. Basically, the first year they did the show, you couldn't even see the tower. But they hold a car show there every year, and it's become pretty popular. That track's kind of a local legend. Again, it was shut down in the 70s, but there's a lot of the old guys that tell all the old stories of racing there. An unlimited budget, what would be my dream build? That's a good one. It's because it's hard to build just one. I guess for unlimited budget, I know which engine I would go with. I am a big fan of the single overhead cam Fords, from back in like the late 60s, early 70s. Big fan of those engines, and they are expensive. But I said definitely probably build something with one of those. I don't know, it'd be cool, like an old Torino, or you could probably shoehorn one of them into a Mustang. I've always also been a big fan of like the old Ford GTs. Those are really cool. Gosh, that's a hard one. See, there's so much stuff that I want to build. 75 Pinto with a V8. I would have a blast with a V8 Pinto. That's another car. When I did sell the Lincoln, and it was on Marketplace, I was looking, and there was a 78 Pinto that really caught my eye. The little green Pinto wagon that I could have stuck a 302 in and been having a lot of fun. 72 Gran Torino. See, those are cool cars. I've always been a fan of the big cars. With a Stroker 460, of course. Tire blazing machine. That would be fun. Let's see what else we got. Oh, here's an old picture. I guess not old. This was all three of them at our show at the shop. Like this was the first time we had the 78 out at a show since we pulled the engine and just went through it. So it sat for a couple years, but that was the first time we had that truck back out. And then, so you can see my brother there with that, my dad in the 73, and then I had the Lincoln. Way in the corner, you can just kind of see the PT Cruiser that we built with the 5.7 Hemi. That was a cool one at the shop. Older couple came to us with this PT Cruiser that they had owned since it was new, and they wanted to do something with it. Talked about just turboing the 4-cylinder. Talked about maybe swapping in like an old school V8. But we kind of did. We threw some ideas around and decided, you know what, let's do the Hemi. Kind of make it. This car was a 02, I think it was. This is kind of the era that Dodge was bringing back the Hemi. So it's like, let's kind of make the car that Chrysler should have made. So it was fun. I think it's maybe a 400 horse Hemi, nothing crazy. But we converted it to rear wheel drive. Kept most of the stock interior as much as we could. Stock dash, center console, seats, all that stuff. She wanted the interior to be as close to factory as possible. But otherwise, outside, underneath was all custom. That was a cool car. That one I might be able to find a picture of. As far as cars that we've built at the shop, that was probably the one car that we got asked about more than anything else. You'd go to a show and everyone wanted to know, what about they wouldn't necessarily remember exactly what car, but they knew what they're talking about, and so we could usually finish their sentence. So, you talk about the PT Cruiser? Oh yeah. So let's see if I got a photo of this thing. Probably got one somewhere here. Where are we at? I've only got about 1 million photos. There we go. There it is. Yeah, so you can see we did the 5.7 Hemi in it. Got a cool body kit. That body kit took a lot of work. There's a lot of little things that are done that it's hard to see. Obviously the body kit and the wheels are pretty major. A lot of little changes in the body lines. The front end we actually swapped over. This had the big plastic, like the black bumpers on it, and we updated to the newer style stuff. So that was a fun project. Got a lot of hate for that car. It's fun. It still pops up online from time to time, photos of it here or there. That was lovely. Some people loved that car, others just hated it. We loved it. All right. Old Autorama picture. This was the 36 Oldsmobile. It was on Air Ride. Had a 383 Chevy dressed up as the Olds engine. Then you can see the 67 Cougar. That had a 428 Cobra Jet. We did a full restoration on that one. The Bob 68 Camaro RSSS car that we did a Pro Street build with. How's everyone doing? Hope you guys are having fun. What are y'all looking forward to? What kind of car shows you looking forward to this summer? Here we go. You can see the Camaro a little bit better in this picture. That's another one that came to us as basically a shell, and we had to rebuild that. But it was cool. 383, Pro Street car. Nothing crazy, but he drove the heck out of that car. I mean, that car was never on a trailer unless we took it somewhere. So yeah, this is another one at Tri-City Dragway. This would have been that same year that we took the Lincoln. This is one of our old painters, Gary. He has a Willys that he pieced together. Kind of a spare parts starter car, but it's really cool. Yeah, we're not far off from car show season at this point. I think our next one's in April, end of April. And then we're going to be right back into it. We've got a handful of them in May. Like I say, obviously around here, Michigan, we got a lot of shows. Oh, here we go. Cool picture of the 78 at the show. Kind of turned out dark. It's like a gray color. So yeah, we did this truck back. This would have probably been 20. We got it in 2011, I think. And the truck got finished about 2015, I think it was. The color was a actual factory Ford color. Dad had a 06 F-150 at the time and really liked the color of it, and so we painted the truck that color. It was at the dark shadow gray metallic. Pretty cool. You don't see a lot of, at least back then, you didn't see a lot of vehicles painted that dark gray. Nowadays you see a lot. A cool picture of the Lincoln. This was actually from a different Roadkill Nights event. But we got, we're down there, and as we're leaving, I'm like, you know what? We're on Woodward Avenue. We're not just going to leave. So my son and I, we spent some time cruising down Woodward Avenue. If any of you know the history of Woodward Avenue, it's pretty cool. It was kind of a hot spot for drag racing back in the day. A lot of big names raced out there on the street. So it's always a fun place to go. All right. This one was cool. This is a St. Ignace trip. I guess I talk about it like everyone's from here. One of our big shows we go to every year is up in St. Ignace. It's a 3-day show just north in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And so usually on our way, we drive up the coast. And, this year we had that year we had only the 2 vehicles. I think last year we had 5 or 6. And it's just fun. It's a show where, you get up there. We usually get up there Thursday, cruise around, take a lawn chair out by the road and just watch people drive by, hop in your car, make a couple laps. It's just an awesome show. But yeah, this we caught the Lincoln and then the Falcon out near the water. The Falcon's cool. That one, he picked it up years ago, and it had the old 6-cylinder, and it used to have a 2-speed, and then he swapped to a 3-speed to try to make the car more drivable, and it wasn't, And so we actually picked up an absolutely roached out Fox body Mustang and pulled the 4-cylinder and 5-speed out and put it in this Falcon. So less cylinders, 2 more gears, and more power. But it's cool. And that's when he daily drives that car all year. Takes it, cross country, out of state. I mean, he's drives that car all the time. It's a pretty cool one. This one's cool. This is at a local, small town show. Kids and I hopped in the Lincoln and went out there. It's been 2024. Kids had fun. That car was another one. I drove that all summer. Hope y'all are having a good Saturday. What's left of Saturday. What else is everybody working on? This is cool. That St. Agnes trip. This one's cool. This is my buddy Jared, his 58 Buick. That's another car. We built that in college. Southern car, super clean. You can see it's got some patina to it, but it's an original, that salmon pink paint. But we put in a carbureted 6-liter and a more modern transmission. Lowered it, upgraded the brakes. This was kind of back the early times of the LS swaps. Our town that we're from, this was kind of one of the first LS swapped cars around. But that's cool. That's another one to hop in and kind of drive anywhere, start a car. Anybody familiar with the old Buicks from back then, they had a torque tube rear end, so they didn't have any upper trailing arms on the rear end. So we actually had to fab up all that stuff, find a center section out of a newer Buick, so we could made it up to a regular drive shaft and transmission setup. We pulled the power brake setup out of a Crown Vic, swapped that in there. That was another one. We just put it together with what we had. That's fun. He still has it. That's another car during the summer he drives all the time. Got a cool one of the Lincoln in the 73. You can kind of see some pretty big tires on that thing. It was 4-linked and had a lot of cool work done to it. That was loud too. Yeah, it had about this much exhaust on it. Like I said, it was fun to drive when you were somewhere. It was just not as fun getting there. Here we go. This one's cool. 34 Ford we built at the shop. That was kind of our, we do a lot of show car stuff, but this was one of our first forays into the Riddler grade 8 kind of stuff. Didn't get a grade 8 with it, but we had a lot of fun. A lot of work went into this car. We got hard to see, it's an all aluminum 572-inch Hemi. Everything's been polished. Custom build a set of headers for it. Running a fuel injection setup with a Terminator, and like I said, it's got the blower. It made, I think it was 8 pounds of boost, made 1,300 horse or something like that. Yeah, that car was a handful. It's about a third of the throttle was all you could use out on the street. That car is wild. It's up in Long Island now. A customer up there. Another one of the old trucks. It's hard to beat an old Ford. Let's see, what else do I got? So how's everyone doing tonight? Hope we're all having fun. Getting ready for car show season. This is cool. This is the truck I had to replace the 95 Ford that I wrecked. The 95 Dakota. Little 6-cylinder, 4-wheel drive. As a high school kid, I thought this thing was cool. Until I made it to the gas pump, and gas was $4 a gallon. It became less cool after that. Yeah, that was... Those Dakotas were kind of funny. The V8 actually got better fuel mileage than the V6 did. That, I think it was like a 3.9 V6. Especially in the 4-wheel drive, was so underpowered. Like, that thing had to work. But it was a fun truck. I had fun with it. Typical teenager. I beat it pretty hard. And she was a little rusty. Hard to see here, but you can see a little of the rust around the back fender well. I had a... my Friday night ritual usually consisted of getting a can of black spray paint, and I'd spray the rust around the wheel wells before going out for the weekend. You know, it should be all right for a few days, and then before next weekend, you'd spray the rust again. I seen the, after I sold the truck, I saw it about a month later, and that rear wheel well, or that fender flare had fallen off the truck. It finally rusted out so much that it couldn't even hold the fender flares on anymore. Typical Michigan truck problems. Oh, this one was cool. This is one I pulled out of a guy's woods. 78 F100. I think I paid $150. If it was a Chevy, there'd be no wheel wells to paint. And there's, yeah, the big one I see a lot around here is Dodges. A lot of Dodges without box sides on them. But I mean, you know, living in the Northwest, especially Michigan, they salt the roads in the winter, and that's just, it's terrible. I bought my wife a new car a couple years ago, and I'm like, we bought the subscription to the local car wash. So like, we got to wash this thing all the time, or else it's just gonna rust right out. One thing that makes me want to move south sometimes. Yeah, this one had been sitting in the guy's, out in the woods at a guy's place for years. My grandpa had went to buy an old Chevy truck from him, and so I went with him to help pick it up, and I seen this there, and I got paid $150 for it. It'd been sitting for 7 or 8 years, and brought it home, dumped some gas in it, and away she went. Ended up selling it for like $400. A little 302 in it. That was a nice little truck. You can see it had a little rust, but stuff like, that grill and bumper were mint. There was a lot of good parts on that truck. Of course, nowadays, you're not going to buy a truck like that for $100. Prices are going up. Although, I did notice when I was shopping on Marketplace for when I bought the wagon, there was some decent deals. There's some prices that had actually they've been coming down. So that's kind of exciting. What do we got? Through some photos here. Well, hey, Dad, how's it going? We're just hanging out. Just going through some old pictures. I just pulled the old picture of the 78 up that I'd bought for $150. Talking about you can't do that anymore. Wish you could. Wish we could. All right, what we got? Let's see. Got some more photos in here somewhere. Trying to find some. Hope everybody's having a good one this Saturday. Oh, here we go. Getting ready for car show season. Yeah, that was a fun one. I mean, for an old truck and pulled out of the woods. Yeah, pretty proud. We made it work. Hey, how's it going? Mad Max Garage in the house. This is this is an older picture here. Went to the Bigfoot store in so back then this would have been Hazelwood. Look at that little guy right there. It's a Bigfoot 5, the 10-foot tall tires. Yeah, my little brother, myself, and my mom standing in the tires. Yeah, so they've moved. They're in Pacific, Missouri, I think now. They do an open house every year. I'd love to go. Gonna have to make it one of these years. Kind of a big fan of the old school monster trucks, and there's been a lot in the past 3-4 years. A lot of people that are restoring the old trucks, so it's cool to see. If I can get this out of the album here. Yeah, old Bigfoot 1. That truck's been restored. Yep, in Pacific now. I know I'm short, but I was like really short there. But it's a big truck. Yeah, like I said, it seems like a pretty cool event that they do every year at their open house. A lot of old school trucks kind of coming out of the woodwork. I know they've restored a few now. On a mission to 7-3 swap the world. That's a good thing to do. I think the world needs more of that. That's one swap that I'm just waiting. Hopefully somebody one of these days will have us do one. The boss there at the shop, he just got a new 3/4 ton Ford that's got the 7.3 in it. And I've already been talking about putting a Whipple supercharger on it. Yeah. 74 Gremlin in purple. I like those cars. Who else likes a Gremlin? I think they're a neat little car. We did what was this? I think it was a 74. The one we did at the shop. The little 304 in it. That was a fun project. I learned a lot, that's for sure. Especially that they don't make parts for Gremlins. You find a good Ford tuner. Yes, I'm sure we would. Yeah, I know that's a fairly new thing right now, so people are learning on tuning and stuff like that for those. So yeah, I'd like to do one. Trying to think what all we got. We do have a Coyote build coming up, 54 Ford truck. It's got a supercharged Y block in it right now, but we're going to pull that out. Put a supercharged Coyote in it. Local engine shop's building for us. I think he's going to set it up conservatively to make about 800. 258.6 and a green 76 Gremlin. I got 10 issue, yep. Yeah, Dad, I know he had the Gremlin. I know a lot of his friends in high school had Gremlins. So when we built that one at the shop, can't go wrong with Coyote. It's hard to. The Coyote's a good setup. They're pretty big, so they don't fit in a lot of things very well, but they're you can make a lot of power with them. But yeah, we did that 74 Gremlin, and we took it to Detroit to Autorama, and I don't know how many people I talked to over the weekend that said, "Oh man, I've had one of these. I knew somebody that had one," and everybody that talked about it had a smile on their face when they were. It was everybody loved them. For a cheap throwaway car, I think they just hit right. I don't know if I got a picture of the Gremlin. Trying to scroll through some of this stuff here. I liked it. This one was 78 Trans Am blue. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to see, but one of the last pictures I have on this phone of that car. Pretty decent tire. It was like a 10-inch wide tire on the back of it, which doesn't fit very well, but it looks real good. I'm glad I went to Colorado Springs with 3 quarts of oil. 31 quarts, sorry, yeah. The old 302. Much better than the ugly Pacer. Yeah, the Pacer didn't quite have the look to it. I mean, if you had it was blue and had some flames on the side, then I could probably get behind that. But yeah, the Pacer didn't go over too well. Yeah, I mean, they didn't make hardly any parts for the Gremlin. I can't imagine there's much around for a Pacer. But the oddball cars are fun. What's the weirdest car you've ever worked on? I know we've had a couple at the shop. Obviously, the Gremlin. The PT Cruiser was an oddball. We've had a couple like Packards and things like that. Probably we had an old city car. It was one of them like electric. Looks like a doorstop. Little wedge shaped electric thing. That was probably the weirdest one we've worked on. It was it was weird. We put it on air ride, painted it, did some interior work. The guy wanted it, so, but it was wild. I took it on the road one time, and I thought I was gonna get run over. Like you're sitting in this thing and like you're looking up at small SUVs. I mean, the thing was just tiny. The 70s Aspen, like maybe 80s, yeah. The Aspen wagon's an odd one. So that's probably one of Grandpa's things. Up here. This one I talked about earlier. That was the Mustang. 95 GT. 5-liter. This was a Florida car that was, I mean, very solid. That was a super clean car. One of them that, yeah, I wouldn't mind having back. I think I sold it to a guy down in Detroit. He was going to make a drag car out of it. Whether he did or not, I don't know, but that was his plan anyway. Your Mustang could beat my Mustang. Yeah, because yours had probably almost 4 times the horsepower that mine did. Yeah, that's not right. I don't know if I have a picture on this phone. My dad had it was an '01 Roush Stage 3 Mustang that made like 700 horse. Uh, Super cool car and fast, very fast. That was one that you could get yourself in trouble in that car. Here's a cool one. This was the gray '78 when we got it. You can see it had the old boggers on it. It was a sand dunes truck. Basically, all he did was take it to the sand dunes and blast around in. Didn't have much of an interior. Obviously we redid the paint and body. But yeah, that's what it looked like before. This is a '50 Merc. Yes, the Merc was cool. Let's see. I might have a photo of that one. Yeah, this '50 Merc was a beautiful car. All factory. The flathead, 3 on the tree, 4-door. But again, that's another one. It was like driving a couch. Let's see. Here it is. Yeah, this was the Merc. That was a fun car. It was a Texas car, if I remember right. That really solid. Like, when we went and looked at it, I don't think any body panels had been replaced or patched. The car was that solid. Been repainted once, but had some cool pinstriping on it. You go, trying to work on a wiper motor under a tire bulge. Need 3 swivels to get at it. Yeah. It's funny how some of them cars, they don't build them for you to work on them. They don't. What else we got? Here we go. It's another decent picture of the Merc. Yeah, this was a cool one. Yeah, the '70. They said the Montego is a good car. I love that one too. Because I was telling them about that earlier. I was showing some pictures of so like this one here had the '73. Talking about how we swapped it for the Montego. I've snuck it onto the channel a couple times, but we're gonna get a good video of it here once the weather breaks. I have to come up and snag it for a minute. Got to get it anyway so I can work on the taillights. Yeah, it's a cool car. Super drivable too, which is awesome. Trying to see what else do I got. Oh, speaking of old school monster trucks, that was a cool one. Went to a show over in Port Huron, Michigan, and they had the old Showtime Bronco. I missed them running over the cars. I wish I would have saw that. We were getting things set up and stuff. We had our shop had taken the car over there, and we were getting our booth set up. So I didn't get to see him drive the truck over the 2 cars, but I wish I would have. That would have been a lot of fun. Trying to see what else we got. Let's see. We can do. I remember you telling me about the poster. There's something cool about an old monster truck. All right. Let's see what we got here. Spin the wheel a little more. For any of the seen my channel before, I do a little piece called Go Hard or Scrapyard where we spin a couple wheels. One's got vehicles, one's got engines. And we just see what kind of crazy stuff we come up with. We did a little bit of that earlier. Let's do a couple more. Well, the SN95 Mustang, which is my Mustang. So that's that's kind of the next step up from the Fox bodies. That was kind of their next thing. So a lot of stuff you can do to a Fox body, you can do to one of those cars. Let's see. What do we got for engines? Hope everyone's having a good one. Thanks for joining. The Dodge 440. Wonder if that's been done. The old 90s Mustang with a 440 Dodge in it. I know those engine bays aren't big. There's a little work that would need to be done to put a big block in it. But that would be cool. Here, let's do another. All right. Just make Mopar guys mad. Yeah, they would too. Ferrari F40. Anything we're going to swap into that is going to make a Ferrari guy mad. This is 73 Mach 1. Those are cool cars. I do like the old 70s Mustangs. Fastbacks especially. The more and more I see them. They're kind of a neat car. Gotta be a 440 Magnum. Yeah. All right, let's see what we put in that Ferrari. It's got to be American. That would be awesome. I think Enzo's going to be upset. The 4-liter AMC straight six, which, credit to the straight six, you're not going to kill it. Those are when I worked at the engine shop, the only time we ever had to work on a 4-liter, usually it had 3 rods hanging out of it. They would go and go and go. But you put one of those in a Ferrari F40, somebody's going to be upset. Got rid of it for a woman. You're probably wishing you had the Mustang. Maybe, yeah. Enzo would have a stroke. Oh, wouldn't he? I mean, we could hop that 4-liter up, a turbo or something. But yeah, he wouldn't be happy about it. And I'm okay with it. I mean, the F40 is a cool car. Jeep CJ7. This is another. We do a lot with these. Panteras are cool. They are a neat car. That's one I haven't had a chance to work on. We not a whole lot of them around here. I've seen 1 or 2 in person, but the Panteras are a cool car. What are we gonna put in the CJ7? Dodge 426 Hemi. We don't need fenders. We don't need fenders. We're getting a lot of Dodge stuff. I also missed the 77 Cutlass. Yeah. That's what that was. That's the 77 Cutlass is a cool car. I was looking for one of those when I was shopping around. Got to drive one in high school. Man, was it something. I bet. I bet. that rear engine's got to be, the way that thing handles with all the weight in the back. That thing had to be wild. Yeah. The 351 Cleveland. You can make a lot of power with those, with the right parts. We've actually got some Cleveland parts that I picked up from a customer. And yeah, I mean, the ports on them things are massive. A lot of higher RPM power. All right. Appreciate you guys joining me tonight. This is just out here hanging out. C3 Corvette. We hit this one a little bit earlier. Probably one of the longest running Corvettes, the C3. They're not easy to work on. Actually, I think right now we have, let me think, 5 or 6 of them in the shop right now. For the longest time, we didn't work on Corvettes. And now, in the last year, maybe, year and a half, it seems like every week we're getting a new Corvette. And look at a lot of them C3s. A lot of C3s. Maybe we can swap one of these engines into a C3. The Cadillac North Star V8 in a C3 Corvette. That would probably turn some heads. Might need to do something about head gaskets, but what years is the C3 Corvettes? You have to, don't hold me to it. I think the last year for them was 82. I think 68 to 82, I believe. I'm working on my C3 Corvette knowledge here, but I want to say it was 68 to 82. I know certain years are more desirable than others. A lot of the earlier cars had the steel bumpers still. I think one of them, we got a 68 in the shop right now. It's a big block 4-speed car. It's probably the coolest C3 we've got at the shop. It's red. They said big block 4-speed, nice clean car. That one hopefully will be finishing that up by the end of the month. Like I said, we swapped in the big block, wiring, doing a lot of stuff. The car's been sitting for a while. Now we just finished up finishing up a C1 Corvette. That was the 62 that we showed down at Detroit in beginning of March. That was fun. I learned a lot on that project. 502 Caddy and a Gremlin. I want to do that. I do want to do that. Drove a 25th anniversary. Nice. Like I said, the C3s are pretty fun to drive. I've driven a couple that have been really nice cars. All right, we got a Super Bird and Daytona. These are the iconic wing cars. These are ones that, yeah, you wouldn't often see anything but a Dodge engine in. First car was a 69 Barracuda with a 340. That's a cool first car. I can't say mine was. Not that it wasn't cool, but I didn't have a I didn't have a 69 Barracuda. I should have pulled this picture up earlier. That was my first one. 1995 F-150 Eddie Bauer. So yeah, 800. I paid about that for this. It was $750. Yeah, you can't even look at that Barracuda now for $800. Those are pretty cool. with the 340. Let's get the head bolts corrected. Yeah, see, really, that was the big thing. When I worked at the engine shop, we did we rebuilt a few of those, and yeah, that was always part of it, was drilling out the heads or drilling out the blocks for the bigger bolts and all that good stuff. Yeah, once that's done, they were a good car. I see, yeah, 427. Oh yeah, yeah. The truck drove a whole 3 miles before I wrecked it. Yeah, I was pretty proud of this one. 14 years old. 302. We put dual exhaust on it because you have to. Yeah, actually, I might have that picture too. Give me a second here. I don't. It might not have even been 3 miles. It wasn't very far. Ah, here we go. If I can get it out of here. And that's why I got rid of the truck. You got them little brown things with white tails up here in Michigan that they don't do well to vehicles. Doesn't look bad, but the core support's trash. That fender was pushed back into the door. Obviously, the hood was all buckled. I mean, the front end of that truck was gone. And unfortunately, I mean, it was kind of a rusty truck anyway, so insurance decided it wasn't worth fixing. And then somehow I still made money on that truck. I don't know how. Go figure. Duct tape could fix that. Duct tape and a couple hammers, maybe. Little thrush mufflers. Thrush makes good stuff. I always made so. Everybody, what's your favorite muffler to run on a vehicle? I've done a handful of different exhausts with the shop, and I've usually got a few that I gravitate towards. The truck there, the 95, I had a knockoff Flowmaster on it, which it's really hard to beat a Flowmaster on a small block Ford. Don't know why, but they just sound good. But I've been using a lot of Borla stuff too lately, and they make a good product. It's made in America. It's probably one of the nicer quality mufflers that's around. Oh, for sure. That was the funnest 3 miles. That I was having a blast for all three of them. Yeah, like I say, we spent some time working on that truck. New tires, the exhaust, did some suspension work, stereo system, detailed it. I mean, it was, for a 14-year-old kid, I was pretty proud of that. Yeah, for 3 miles. And one choice, a cherry bomb. That's another one, honestly, that sounds pretty good on a small block Ford. We had one of my buddies in high school had an old Ford truck that he had some cherry bombs on, and I remember that truck sounding pretty darn good. Wait, F-150. What's with exhaust manifold leaks? Because they're terrible. I think just the castings on those are real bad, and I have not come across a truck that's had a decent amount of miles on it that doesn't have cracked manifolds. Every one of them. Those modular Fords of that era, your late 90s to 2010s ish, they all leak. Headers is the way to go. They don't, those old factory manifolds don't hold up. And if you got to replace one, good luck getting the bolts out. We did a lot of those. We did a lot of modular Fords when I worked at the engine shop. And I don't think there was one of them that didn't have at least half a dozen broken bolts in it. Gotta put headers on them and forget it. Yeah. A nice quality header will go a long way. That's hopefully gonna be one of the future purchases for the wagon. It's a little too quiet. Got to make it. Don't want it loud, but don't want people to hear me. my boss gives me a hard time. We were up in St. Ignace the one year I had the Lincoln, and we were just cruising it around in the parade, and some lady hollering from the sidewalk, "Hey, Lincoln, let's hear it." And I revved on it a little bit, and then she's like, "Let's hear it." I'm like, I just did. Boss is over there laughing at me. I'm like, I got to make this thing louder. She didn't even hear that I was revving on it. So I can't make the wagon too quiet. But I'm torn. I don't know what to do as far as, I really like the Borlas. I really like how the Flowmasters sound. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. But headers would definitely be good. Gotta have some headers. Probably race your Mustang. I did a couple times at a local drag race event called Thunder on the Strip. We did do a 8th mile drag racing at the airport in Gladwin. I took the Mustang up there once. Again, it was stock. So hold 215 horsepower. It wasn't fast, but I had fun. Blew the tires off of it even. But yeah, I mean, I never got to do any other racing with it. I think that car would have been fun on like an autocross. There's a couple events around here that I want to check out. They do autocrossing. There's a local road course that does open track days, and that would be fun to do. I talked to them when we were down in Detroit, and they did suggest I bring the wagon down, so we'll see. That would be it. He told me, he's like, don't expect to set any lap records, but you're gonna look cool doing it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna feel cool doing it. All right, let's do another. Speaking of 1950 Mercuries, look at that. The 1950 Merc. I've got a few cars on here, obviously, that are cars that we've owned over the years, so. Now this one, obviously Dad's car was not, his Merc was not engine swapped. A lot of them have been. But let's see. What could we get? Bugatti W16. That would be pretty wild. Have a Bugatti engine in a 50 Mercury. We may have to upgrade a few other things. Like the rest of the car, probably. But that would be neat. I bet you that would turn some heads. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining in. Like I said, we're just hanging out, talking car stuff. Definitely appreciate a like and subscribe. We going to shows this summer, so there's going to be a lot of cool content coming up. I'll be working on a handful of vehicles. Just talking about rally cars. I haven't done any rally stuff, but that's another one I think would be fun. That's another. I know there's I think up in North Michigan, there's a rally group that does a few different events every year. And that's another one. I think a lot of those kind of events, they've got like open track days that they will let you, within reason, take your vehicle to. Like that road course, you know, when I talked to them, they told me, basically, if you were going to drive your vehicle across the state, it's like, what would you look at? Your bearings. You'd look at your lights. You'd make sure it's not leaking, it's not falling apart. And basically, that's their safety inspection. And I know that rally group kind of does the same thing. Again, within reason, certain vehicles aren't really meant for it, but I could take the Pontiac out there if I wanted. Never did fully understand the W engine. I can't say that I do either. They're pretty wild. We don't, obviously, we're a hot rod shop. We don't get to mess with a lot of stuff like that. We've had a total of one Lamborghini in the shop. And that was, honestly, we put some bolt-ons on that car, like some carbon fiber pieces. I'm not even sure how we ended up with that job. So yeah, I don't know the inner workings of that W engine. Maybe somebody else does, but it's kind of a neat piece. Put one of those in a 50 Merc, that would be wild. Said, Kid Stardust, do you do any rally car stuff? I said, it'd be cool to get into. I've always been along the lines of what they say, it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than a fast car slow. And I've got a few slow cars, so doing something like that would be a lot of fun. Let's pull up another one here. The dent side Ford truck, one of my favorites. Obviously, we got the 78, we had the 73. That's a great truck. What could we swap into that? Obviously, there's a lot of Ford options. Small blocks, big blocks, Coyotes and Godzillas. That would be cool to do a Godzilla swap in one of those. But we're going to spin a wheel with a bunch of engines, so we don't know what we're going to get. The GM LSX 454. I know that the LSs have been swapped into almost everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone has swapped an LSX into a dent side Ford. We've done one LSX swap. We got another one coming up in a Chevelle. But we actually did a LSX in a Regal, like a Regal T-Type a couple years ago. That was another one. We got a lot of flack for that on the internet too. But that car was bad. That's blasphemy. Yeah, I can agree with you on that one. But yeah, we did this Regal, pulled out the turbo 3.8 and put in the LSX, and there was a lot of unhappy people. It wasn't a Grand National or nothing, so we didn't rip up a Grand National, but apparently even just the Regal, and especially a rotted out Regal like this one was, apparently that was still too important to put an LSX in. But it was fun. That car would she'd boogie real hard. Yeah, and I think we got, like I said, another LSX in a 70, I think it's a 71 Chevelle. We're going to do an LSX and a 6-speed automatic in. Pretty nice car. It's got a big block already, but he just wants to update it. We do a lot of LS swaps, I can tell you that. Getting into a couple LT swaps. We've done Hemis. The PT Cruiser was probably the biggest Hemi swap we've done. BMW E36. This is one I added to the list because I've always kind of liked these cars. I know nothing about BMW engines. I think it would be real fun to take one of these and put a really rowdy 302 Ford in. Like Flowmaster's Hot Rod 302 in the BMW. I could get down with that. Let's see, what do we get here? The GM Performance ZZ632. Well, if a 302 was hard enough to get into one, that one's going to be tough. But 1,000 horsepower in an E36, come on, that would be awesome. That's a cool engine. We have done one at the shop. We did 632 in a 65 Biscayne. That is a monster of a car. That engine's just cool, but it's huge. You know, they've redesigned, you know, basically everything from the deck surface up. You know, the block is dimensionally the same as a tall deck big block, but everything else, like the cylinder heads have raised ports, so the intake's taller. They're just huge. But 1,000 horsepower doesn't come easy, so. Sold cars in 77, AMC dealership. A Pacer station wagon with a 340. That would be cool. Not only do I like big cars, I like small cars with big engines. And, you know, the 340 is not necessarily a big engine, but in a car like that, would run. I'd be down for that. Like I said, the Pinto with a small block would be a fun build. I would run one of those. You know, we did some work on a Cobra kit car a few years ago. I did a Tremec 5-speed swap in it, and that car had a little 302 in it. Maybe 300 horsepower, like fairly tame 302. But that car felt like a rocket ship. Like, it was an absolute rocket ship. Because it weighed nothing. Friend had a Pinto with a 351. There we go. I'm a sucker for a 351. Windsor, Cleveland, it doesn't matter. Like I said, that's what the LTD wagon's got, the 351 Windsor in it. So I always thought it'd be cool to do a 410 stroker in that car. The AMX was a beautiful car. Yes, the AMXs are cool. We've built a couple of them. They're a cool little 2-seater sports car. You know, really great lines. They're a cool car. Yeah, I own a Datsun dealership. Cool. Very cool. Datsuns are another one I don't have a lot of experience with. Yeah, thank you guys for hanging out. The AMX was bad. Yeah, they were. 2nd gen Ram. We've hit this one once already tonight. I honestly don't remember what we rolled for an engine, but yeah, the AMXs were. The Javelin's another one. I always like the Javelins too. Even the Gremlins. I mean, I'm a fan. The AMC made some cool stuff. You know, it'd be cool to see what they would do if they were still around. Toyota 2JZ in a 2nd gen Dodge Ram. That could be pretty wild. I know those 2JZs can make killer power. You know, you have big turbos on those. They can make some power. But I'm sure it would fit into the 2nd gen Ram all right. I mean, you could get those with the Cummins straight 6 in them. So I'm sure a 2JZ swap would be fairly straightforward. But that would be pretty wild to hear that noise coming from that truck. Gremlin didn't have a V8 model. Yep. As I said, the Gremlins are cool. That one that we finished up there a year or so ago at the shop with a 340 was a fun little car. Not a ton of power. I think it made 320, something like that. Nothing crazy. But again, a car like that, you don't need a ton. You want a ton, but you don't need a ton. I always want more. Always want more. What's the good question for everyone? What's the most powerful car that you've driven, like with the most horsepower? Mazda RX-7. I rode in the 34, and that had 1,300. I've driven a handful of 700-800 horsepower big blocks. I haven't driven the Biscayne with the 632 in it. I drove it with the old 572, and that had about 750. Probably for me, the one we did a supercharger on a Coyote Mustang, and that one I think had about 900. That was a fast car. We took it out once, or I took it out once for a test drive, and I don't recall what it said on the speedometer. I was paying more attention to the boost gauge, and that hit 14. So I was just making sure I didn't kick any rods out of it. I was moving, though, I can tell you that much. Lamborghini V12. That would be cool in a little Mazda RX-7. Don't have enough experience with those cars to tell you how well it would fit, but imagine an RX-7 with a V12. Be pretty wild. That's another one. I don't think the Lamborghini community would get as upset as the Ferrari. I think that the Ferrari people seem to get much more upset when you start messing with their stuff. I guess I don't know. I imagine the Lamborghini people are a little more relaxed. If you own a Mustang Performance Shop, nice. Was it classic Mustangs? A lot of newer stuff? Either way, I'm a Mustang fan. Either end of it. I think my favorite car is a 69 Mustang. That's another one. Like if I could get one of those fastback, I'd be pretty happy. But that's another car, man. You don't touch them ones for any sort of money. Be a V12 and a Miata. Yeah. That would be a rocket ship. Newer racing a Mustang, sir. Nice. Very cool. So a lot of Coyote experience, I'd imagine. Yeah, they can make a ton of power. I'm excited about that Coyote build we have coming up. Man, we're getting some repeats. You know what? We're gonna spin again. We got the Ferrari F40 already. I swear this is a random wheel, but we've got a lot of repeats today. Okay, Jeep Wagoneer. Them's are cool. A lot of, bet you can fit a lot of different stuff under the hood of a Wagoneer. Let's see. Yeah, hope you guys are all having a great, well, I won't even say Saturday anymore. It's Sunday now. The Cadillac Northstar V8, of course. I'm telling you, we're getting a lot of repeat stuff. But that would be a wild swap. I think you'd turn a lot of heads with a North Star powered Wagoneer. I don't think it's been done. That's kind of the fun of this, seeing what wacky stuff you can come up with. If you scroll back through the shorts that I've posted, there's been a couple really cool combos that have come up. All right, let's do a few more. Let's try it again. I don't know what's going on tonight. Ah, here we go. I thought we were going to get the CJ7 again. First gen Bronco. Those are pretty cool. We did one a little while back with a 331 stroker in it. Not a lot of room in the engine bay, one of those. I mean, they're not very big vehicles, but it was a lot smaller than I expected. And height-wise, too. He had, I wouldn't even call it a high-rise intake. You know, it wasn't short. It was probably a medium. And we still had to cut a hole in the hood and put a hood scoop on it. Like, it just did not, there was not a lot of room. But it was a cool build. Kind of a trail machine. Let's see what we come up with. I know a lot of guys put coyotes in those, which that's impressive. The 4.3 liter Chevy V6. So that would fit. Be kind of a different swap. A lot of people are probably not going to be a fan of that. We did a Jeep, old 80s Jeep with a 4.3 in it, year or so ago. That was all right. But I don't think a lot of people are going to be happy about a first-gen Bronco with a 4.3. All right. The Chevy Corvair. These are an interesting car. This, I think, would be very tough to swap almost anything into. Rear engine, air-cooled. We've done one at the shop, and it was actually a turbo car, too. Neat little car. Not particularly fast, but it was a neat one. All right. Let's see all these things that probably wouldn't fit. Okay. Ford 3.5 EcoBoost. That would be kind of wild. Put an EcoBoost in a Corvair. You know, like the Tauruses and stuff like that. I mean, them things make 365 horsepower, I think it is. So you're almost 3 times what a standard Corvair is going to make. And putting that in the back would be pretty wild. Now, I have seen a couple Corvairs around that were chassis swapped. So they were front engine, you know, on tube chassis, stuff like that. And that could be done. But to keep it in a actual Corvair platform would be pretty wild. For 1 barrels, yeah. Let's do another here. I gotta wait for an ad. Everything's got ads. I've noticed that even on YouTube. Lift the front wheels on a Corvair. Yeah, I bet it would. They made, I want to say that turbo car that we had was rated at 140 maybe. So, I mean, not a lot of power. So you're talking almost triple that. Would be pretty wild. And yeah, I think if you kept that in the back of the car, you'd probably never be able to drive it. That thing would be all over the place. They were already like that. They were already pretty bad. All right, let's do another one here. Chevy Nomad. One of my favorites. That's an iconic car. The old Tri-5 Chevy Nomads. Lots of cool things you can do to one of those. But we might make some people mad here. Let's see. What's the chances it ends up with a Chevy engine? And it didn't. Godzilla V8 in the Nomad. That would be pretty cool, but I think a lot of people wouldn't be happy about that. You'd get some attention though, that's for sure. Tri-5 is another one that you don't see a lot of people swapping different make engines into. I mean, there's a few exceptions. Obviously, Mike Finnegan's Blasphemy, that's got the Hemi in it. That one's pretty popular, but you don't see a whole lot of engine swapped Tri-5s. I know people got real upset, the Project X when they electric swapped that. That upset a lot of people. Obviously, it's a famous project car that for a time was powered with an electric engine. I don't recall it being particularly fast with that setup either. I don't remember what the numbers were, but I mean, it was a neat thing that they could do it, but I'm glad that they've since swapped it out. I did get to see the car at one point down at PRI at the trade show, and it did have the electric engine in it at the time, or the electric motor, sorry. But yeah, that one didn't last long. That was short-lived. I think it's got the 632 in it now. And that's A-okay with me. All right, why don't we do one more? I think we're getting to that point of the night / morning. Let's see. Last one, what we can get here? Toyota AE86. That's come up a couple times on shorts. I just had one that was now. So this happened two times, and both of them was Dodge engines. NASCAR friend, yeah, I do like NASCAR. So I haven't watched in a while, but we used to watch all the time back in the days of like Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt, Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, all them guys back in the day. Spent a lot of time. And yeah, I mean, I get to watch it every once in a while now. I love all the old cars. Tying right back into the Montego, actually, if you haven't seen that one yet. It's, I don't know, something cool about an old stock car. I'm a sucker for old school stock cars, old drag cars, old school monster trucks, the old pulling trucks and tractors. Any of that stuff is just cool. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously the newer technology, the newer cars, you can do a lot with them, but there's just so much character in the old stuff. And yeah, back then, the drivers, man, there were some talented people. Guys that you could race with, and they would you're not wrecking people, you're bumping people, and they're just talented. Well, sorry to hear that. But it's a race to NASCAR, eh? When they let Toyota in, I lost interest. Yeah, that was. I think was a big turnoff for a lot of people. It was kind of always an American sport. American brands, and yeah, once they once they brought into, I think it was about the time they lost Dodge and then brought in Toyota. That was kind of a turning point. JD McDuffie. Okay, yeah, I've heard of him. Obviously, yeah. I should know what you're talking about. And so he was your cousin. Okay. Well, I've heard of him. Yeah. That was a while ago. So where are you from? Here, before I forget. Solid dude. Yeah, yeah. I've heard a lot. I've heard stories. Watch different videos. Okay. So this is what we spun for the Toyota AE86. First time was the first time the Toyota came up. Had a 426 Hemi, then the 340 Dodge, and now the 440. Apparently, I am destined to swap a Dodge V8 and a Toyota. Maybe I'm going to have to make that happen. Caroline, yeah, definitely. Yeah, sorry for your loss. That's, you've heard stories, watched videos on him. He was, seemed like a pretty good dude. Yeah, there's a couple videos I watch. There's a few different channels I follow on YouTube that do different bits about old drivers or old motorsports. It's just the characters and the people. There's some cool people. Just real stand up guys and gals too. My grandpa was a drag racer back in the day, and he raced with Colettas and stuff like that at a couple events. And so he was there was a lot of cool names back then too. That track that I talked about, Tri-City, we had again, this was in the 70s when it was shut down, so this was before I was around. Had the likes of Shirley Muldowney and people like that raced at that track. So, just so many cool people. Yeah, everyone comes, but very consistent. Which, to be honest, there's something to be said about a driver that can be consistent week after week after week. That's someone like that's not a flash in the pan. Like that takes talent to be, again, not even winning, just to be competitive consistently. It takes real skill. So, we're gonna do one more. We're still hanging out here. We'll do another. Bugatti Veyron. Not a car you see a lot of engine swaps in. So, yeah, like I said, it's one I haven't unfortunately been watching a lot of NASCAR lately. A little bit, but I think the one I probably follow most now is probably the drag racing. Dodge 340 in a Bugatti Veyron. We're gonna cut cylinder count by half. Don't know how people would think of that one. Big Daddy. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a legend, man. Yeah, it's cool. Some of those guys are still around. I think in all aspects of the car community, the motorsports, the custom cars, things like that. it's cool that a lot of the pioneers are still there. And unfortunately, we're obviously as time goes on, we're losing a lot of those people. But it's cool, there's still some of them around, and gonna hopefully the younger generation comes in and keeps things going. I know recently that obviously Ed Iskandarian passed away. I know Gene Winfield been within the last year. So I mean, yeah, and I think Winfield was 94. I'd met him a couple times. He was really cool. There's just in the community itself, the automotive motorsports community. There's a lot of cool people. Going to trade shows and different car shows and things like that. I got to meet some of the celebrities, as you'll say. And the cool thing is, pretty much everybody I've met, they don't think they're any better than anybody else. Something special about this. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I said, guys, like I said, I met Chip Foose, Gene Winfield, Troy Trepanier. I've met a lot of those guys, and a lot of Eddie Hill. He's not long ago. Yeah, like I said, met a lot of the celebrities, as they say, a lot of like the drag racing and the street outlaws guys, and a handful of NASCAR guys. And again, they don't think that they're any better than you or I. They really don't, which is cool. Yeah, hi, Mom. Yeah, it was good to see you too. Yeah, I think I'm not far behind you on that. Love you guys too. Hope you guys have a good night. They were just, yeah, I mean, they were built different. And and them guys that built the sports that they became a part of. Again, and that's it everywhere. I've met one of my favorites. I think is probably Chip Foose. Obviously, a legendary designer in his own right. He does some crazy stuff, builds some beautiful cars. But he is one of the most down to earth people that I have ever met. And that guy will give you any time of the day. He, like last time I met him was at Detroit at Autorama, and I think he signed autographs for like 6 hours. And literally, he would have kept going if he didn't have a flight to catch to get to Salt Lake the next day to do it again. Just super super cool guy. And we're really fortunate. There's a lot of people out there like that. The industry's got a lot of good people. Yeah, they worked hard. They made it happen. They built what we have. So that's up to us to keep it going. Well, I think we're gonna call it a night or a morning. We're 1 o'clock here, so we're into Sunday for us. But I appreciate everyone joining, just hanging out. Maybe we'll do this again. I think it's a lot of fun just kind of hanging out, and I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for all your support. Hopefully you can stay tuned and check out what we've been doing. So yeah, thank you guys. It's Mark, John. Yeah, thanks. Mom and Dad have been there. Thank you guys. So been great fun. And thank you. I appreciate the subscribe. Like I said, we're gonna put some content up, and we got a lot of fun stuff I'm looking forward to this summer. So hopefully we'll make it worth it for you guys. All right. See y'all later. Have a good one. Don't necessarily know how to end it. There we go. All right, we'll see you later.